Hello everyone. In this video, we will be talking about a very interesting character in Five Nights at Freddy's security breach, Montgomery Gator. Before we continue, I must clarify that what I'm about to say is based on the following videos made by NoRealName NotAtAll, and is made with speculation and personal ideology of what I believed what happened to everyone involved in Monty's story. If I get something wrong, or if you have another interesting premise, kindly let me know in the comments. Also, throughout the video, I use the term Core 4. This is to reference the animatronics who are the main face of the Pizzaplex, such as Freddy, Chica, Roxy, and depending on the context, Bonnie or Monty. You'll understand as we go along. With that out of the way, let us begin. Montgomery Gator is one of the Core 4 in the band of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex. He is the muscle head of the group, and a bassist that has a bit of a temper. Seems straightforward, but it's Five Nights at Freddy's. Nothing ever is. It is rather funny, though. Considering the artwork around the Pizzaplex, Monty is depicted to be the chill dude of the bandmates when he is the complete opposite in person, or in robot. Does that work? I don't know.
Welcome to Monty's Gator Golf, home of the Hurricane Hole-in-One. We're currently closed for the night. Come back soon.
We also have to remember that Monty wasn't initially the bassist. It was Bonnie before. If you want to know in detail as to what happened to Bonnie, I have a video you can watch after this one. It will be my previous video on the subject, along with Twisted Animatronics theory, to kind of support my claim. So what happened? Monty seems so brute and angry, taking inspiration from some popular rock stars trashing his room like a hotel. From the surface, this is his character, but deep down, we can find more pieces of Monty that conflict with what we know. To understand the Monty now, we have to dig into the Monty then. The Monty that was a one-man band. In the Ruin DLC, we get to ride an unfinished ride that details how Monty became one of the Core 4 and the absence of Bonnie. Despite this being unfinished, the ride was gonna be Fazbear Entertainment's official announcement for the customers to explain why Bonnie was replaced. While we do have evidence and understanding that this backstory was a cover-up for what actually happened, I don't want to write it off as completely false. With how the story was set up and where it went, it was inspired by something, and I'm convinced that Monty was a side animatronic that was entertaining those in his golf course. After all, Bonnie was a part of the Core 4 while also being the main face for Bonnie Bowl, performing in the dining area while patrons ate and bowl. Or is it like a kitchen? I consider it a dining area. Also, we have to remember that the daycare attendants, Sun and Moon, are animatronics that are their own mascot entertaining the daycare and are side characters in comparison to the main band members. It's not impossible to think that Monty was in the same position. With all that out of the way though, one thing is clear. Monty wanted more. He saw the attention that the main band he looked up to was getting and wanted a slice of the pie. No pun intended. With some other theories coming out recently, this want for attention has been a thing for years, if not decades now, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll talk about that later. Monty has been wanting to get out of his desolate swamp to glow up in a new spotlight, but it seemed like that time hasn't come. He saw how popular the others were. Freddy and Bonnie were the face of the industry since the start of the Fazbear name. He knew he never stood a chance. So, as Monty continued his daily rituals in Monty Golf, he grew a jealous fascination with the showrunners. His initial facade, one that, to the audience, he was a big bad brute with the face of masculinity and pride. I guess bad isn't really the term, but he was the masculine, prideful one. But really backstage, he was anything but that. That facade just became harder to read, and this toxic relationship was just a one-way lane. Freddy and Bonnie never really had bad blood with Monty, if not at all, so when Monty put on this face around Freddy and Bonnie, they were left confused. Why was he acting? Or is he acting? Is he being genuine? It was hard to read now, and this would only worsen when one of them would confront Monty about his behavior. Due to the evidence and remnant of what we see in the game, I believe it was Bonnie that talked to him. Bonnie was concerned that what Monty was doing wasn't healthy, and that it'd be better off just being on good terms. Of course, Monty didn't take it all that well. Rather than seeing Bonnie's concern as a wake-up call, he took it as an attack, an attempt to push him down, to remind him of his place. Which you could say, in a sense, by that logic, he was projecting himself onto Bonnie, and with how his personality was at the time, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say so. This would shift his anger and fury from the main bandmates to just Bonnie. At that moment, Monty felt like he could rip Bonnie to shreds, tear him down, and take his place for himself. However, due to their programming preventing animatronics from harming anyone and each other, he couldn't, leaving Monty to walk away in anger. From this point on, Monty was aimless. He could never be on that stage. So his anger just resonates with him, wondering if it was even possible to be on that stage. However, eventually, that feeling would turn. Again, I did already cover this in another video, so I'm not going to really elaborate so much on this, but basically, what I believe is, after Bonnie found out about the abandoned and buried pizzeria from FNAF 6 and the missing kids within the Pizzaplex, Vanny sent out the decrepit and sludge-filled sewer bots to dismantle Bonnie. However, it wouldn't be over so soon. Bonnie would fight. Now, I know I just said that the animatronics are programmed not to harm each other, but this situation is an exception. What I think is happening in this moment is something we've already seen before, all the way back in FNAF 2. Remember, the toy animatronics were programmed to be more like security guards, programmed to have a criminal database. With that in mind, it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Glamrocks to have something similar. After all, they're much more advanced than the toy animatronics. I would hope they would have some security protocol. They might have a program to apprehend people in the act of a crime, and if they were actually being victims of an attack, they'd be able to defend themselves. Now, I know about that wording, attack. I used it earlier with Monty, but we have to remember that these robots are really advanced and complicated. Now, what I believe is the reason why Monty didn't end up attacking even after he felt attacked from Bonnie is because, personality-wise, he felt attacked. He felt his character being attacked, his motivation, him being, him. So, he felt like he was being attacked, but his programming didn't sense any actual ill intent from Bonnie, so even if Monty felt attacked, his programming didn't detect anything and prevented him from advancing and killing Bonnie himself. But in this situation where Bonnie is being attacked by the sewer bots that were in around the FNAF 6 pizzeria, it would make sense as to why he would defend himself. As the sewer bots approach him, Bonnie would punch, kick, and bash, acquiring a bowling ball to use for self-defense, which would explain the later half of this story where, unfortunately, he wouldn't last. Making it to Roxy's party garage, he would eventually be apprehended and torn. The sewer bots dug their claws into Bonnie before needing to retreat due to the fact that all the noise, wreckage, and Bonnie's tracking notifying the staff rapidly about his location was bound to draw a lot of attention. The staff members that would arrive to Bonnie's dismay would carry as much as they could, cutting up the carpet to use as a makeshift stretcher to carry Bonnie back to his green room to hide him from the others and decide what to do with him. That's why we see a broken bowling ball next to his body in his green room, because that ended up being carried with him. Once that was done, that was when Vanny struck again. Vanessa convinced the higher-ups to have Monty replace Bonnie, stating that he'll be more popular than Bonnie, when, of course, in reality, Bonnie's repair would cost everything that Vanny was working towards, for the Mimic, which at the time, for her, in her brain, it was Afton. And I'm so glad that in the later games we're moving on from Afton. Oh my god. Considering the offer, the cost of repair, and the attitude that Monty had, Fazbear agreed to Monty being the new basis of the Core 4. He would just need a little bit of a redesign to appear more like a Glamrock, which would probably be a whole lot more cheaper than trying to repair Bonnie in the state he was in. The news was brought up towards the staff members, including the animatronics. After being told what happened and what to expect, on one hand, Freddy was devastated. He was really close to Bonnie, and so it would only be understandable. While on the other hand, Monty, appearing respectfully of course, was jovial of the news. As he got his new look, guitar, and place on the stage, he got the spotlight, the audience, he got everything. Everything seemed to look up for him. At first, not everything lasts with a new rock star. Over time, the feelings of finally being a rock star started to become more of a curse instead of a blessing. For all the robots know, Bonnie is now dead, and once Monty realized that, his position in the band was now met with sorrow and dissatisfaction. He always wanted the spotlight, but it came at the cost of someone's life. In addition to that, the role he was assigned was, an assignment. It was given to him. He didn't earn this. He didn't work towards this. He was just given it. And this led to him feeling like all those moments of that petty and rage moments where he just couldn't help but feel jealous at the fact that he was not as popular as the original Core 4. Meaningless. Regret wallows over him, and so he begins to change. He kept the brute big man persona for the stage, but off stage, both for customers and backstage, he was actually the chill guy that the artwork displays that you see around the pizzeria. And honestly, I don't doubt that this actually did happen, because a lot of bands that I listen to, way heavier stuff, like I'm talking Orbit Culture, Brand of Sacrifice, Whitechapel, Lorna Shore, Signs of the Swarm, all people who make very heavy music. But in reality, when you go backstage and talk to them, they're actually the chillest people you'll ever meet. So the fact that Monty would have the big brute persona to be on stage and then off stage, he's like the chill, like, hey, I'm cool, want an autograph? I wouldn't doubt it for a second. I also believe that after realizing the gravity of Bonnie's death and his past behavior towards him and Freddy, Monty would express his regret to Freddy and try to mend the tides. And due to Freddy's character, he forgives Monty and is able to move on from the past for a better future. This is why Freddy still considers Monty as a friend even after all the events in Security Breach, because they've actually gotten closer than they originally had. So if Monty had all this growth and realization, and he was able to change and be able to use his mask for the better, his facade, why is he still aggressive in the game? Why do we see a lot of his persona in the game? Well, the more likely answer is because of the Mimic. I know, I hate it too. Hold on. God, I don't want this to be the answer! Ah! Let's dial it back now, reel it in. So, why is the Mimic at play? Well, the Mimic has a bit of a stranglehold on the Pizzaplex. If you've seen other theories about the Mimic, you probably understand this. After the intro cutscene for the base game, where Freddy malfunctions, powers down, the whole Pizzaplex gets taken over by the Mimic with a computer virus called the Mimic Virus. Great name for whoever came up with that. Might as well call it Totally Not a Trojan. Please download me. When this event happens, everyone affected with the Mimic Virus starts to act a little funny, doing things that they wouldn't normally do, and going against their programming, such as attacking their customers. That would explain why Monty is acting so aggressive now, right? Because the Mimic, the Mimic, he's like the new evil villain, yeah? Maybe. Look, as likely as the answer may be, I can tell you aren't satisfied. And I 100% agree. It feels like a cop-out. All that growth and change for the better just to have, ooh, the Mimic did it, ooh, he changed him, ooh, the Mimic did it, it's the Mimic, ooh. No, I detest the idea. It'd be so contrived for that to be the reason. There is one aspect, though. One thing that I've been neglecting. At first, I didn't think it would fit. But the more I wrote this, the more it started to understand. The more it started to fit. One key detail that not only foreshadows the future, but details the past. When going for one of the endings in Security Breach, or if you just want to do it, you can have Monty decommissioned to get his claws to upgrade Freddy. In the development, it was initially going to be his legs, but we'll get into the whole development hell in a second. On how we're going about doing that, we get a post-it note detailing an incident in multi-golf, where a guest hits a hole in... I'm going to re-say that because multi-golf. On how we go about doing that, we get a post-it note detailing an incident in multi-golf, where a guest hits a hole-in-one, filling up the hole-in-one hurricane bucket, causing it to fall and hit Monty off the catwalk, falling towards its demise and breaking his legs off. Of course, this is here to hint at what the player is supposed to do to get the Monty upgrade, but there is more we can add on to this. In other instances, it has been documented that Monty has skipped concerts and hides up on the catwalk of Monty Golf. This is the part where Monty's regret and curse started to actually physically show when he became a new rock star. This whole world is new to him and thus wants to hide from the customers sometimes, and he does so by hiding up in the catwalk and skipping concerts. It was just too much for him. But of course this would lead into the incident with the hole-in-one bucket. When this incident happened, of course Fazbear Entertainment had to fix Monty. However, if the damage was anything similar to what we see in the game, then not only was fixing him going to be a pain, but maybe in the game, the Monty we see isn't the same Monty. No, I'm not saying it's the Mimic. Hear me out for a second. With the damages being similar to what we see in game, maybe it was better and cheaper just to replace Monty with a new endo with Monty's plating. It's not a foreign concept. Vanessa threatens this action with Freddy in the game, and there is an abundance of endoskeletons under the Pizzaplex. It would be weird not to use them, right?
If you're part of this, you're scrap. Monty will run the shows until parts and service can slap your casing on a new endo. Hang out here for a while. I gotta find that kid.
Before finishing that thought, let me preface that what I'm going to say is highly speculative. I do not know I couldn't find anything research-wise, and trying to rationalize the story gives me a headache, so I sometimes just purposely don't do enough research, just because of how much it pains me to try to figure this shit out. Seriously, apologies for the swear. So what I'm going to say is highly speculative on my end, and I'm not sure if Steel Wool or Scott has explored this concept. But we see the endos, and they are there for either making more animatronics or replacing the hardware of pre-existing ones. Of course, that comes with another thing. What about the software? Well, that's the answer that I have. I speculate that the fall Monty sustained not only broke him physically, but internally too. With that high of a fall, files are bound to corrupt from the impact of the hardware hitting the floor. This would explain why he's such a feral beast in the DLC, because his internal files and memories are corrupted. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was a sentient robot that was designed to perform and entertain and have memory, and my internal files corrupt to the point that I need someone to fix them and they don't get fixed for a long time, I'd probably go crazy too. It's essentially robotic dementia is what it is. That's a good ass song name. I'm gonna write that down. Now, how I assume with replacing the animatronic goes is not only do they salvage what they can with the previous animatronic, but they transfer the files over to the new animatronic before throwing out the old one completely. But what if the files are corrupted? They can't use those if the files can't be recovered. So of course, Fazbear Entertainment must have backups they can use to transfer over to the animatronics in the event of corrupted files. If they need an animatronic replaced, but the files are corrupted, just use the backup ones. Sure, it sucks that they probably won't remember anything since we last updated those files in the backups, but that shouldn't be a concern, right? You see where I'm going with this? With Monty's fall leaving him in 2 and his software bugging out from the corrupted files, he was replaced with a new Monty that's running on the backup to keep the show running. The only issue is that, in typical Fazbear incompetence, Monty's backup hasn't been properly updated, leaving him with his old self, from when he was still the one-man band, back when his facade was a little less consistent. When Fazbear Entertainment noticed that it hasn't been properly updated, they had to give Monty a little bit of a reassurance, a rundown of his current position, telling him another fabricated story, a sweet lie that Bonnie has left the core for, and Monty will fulfill the role as bassist. Now, Monty is ecstatic that he gets to be one of the core 4, not remembering the guilt, regret, and death of Bonnie because it's not him. He's now prideful of the fact that he made it. Monty is unaware of why he's there and why Bonnie isn't. And Freddy isn't concerned about it because he has already forgiven Monty at that point for his old ways, the ways that Monty doesn't remember committing. This is why we see so little of Monty's true character in game, because what was actually him has been tossed away, to be forgotten, because Fazbear Entertainment continues to be an incompetent entity. God, it's just like politics, dude, I swear. I can't believe the FNAF lore is getting political. In my opinion, this is a much more satisfying answer than, oh, the Mimic did it, because rather than it being the answer, the Mimic virus just adds to it. As much as the Mimic virus makes sense in the grand view, I never liked the idea that it's the reason why things are different, why they act so differently, why they go against their programming. It feels more right for the virus to amplify the cons of our beloved characters, rather than it being the con, you know what I mean? It's kind of similar to how when we get sick, we end up becoming our worst versions of ourselves, and our cons start to seep out a little more. Now, with all this being said, all this speculative, all this storytelling, all these personal takes and headcanons, I must admit that there is one last problem that arises. Something that I would hate to admit, but I must come to accept it. And it's the fact that we don't know enough. We just don't know enough. It's no secret, Security Breach was heavily rushed, and corners were cut to crunch down on time. To meet deadlines, a lot of content was either cut or never developed, and Monty received the short end of the stick in this development hell. In comparison to the others, Monty has little to no redeeming qualities and was neglected by his creators. Initially, there was no time to develop Monty's character, but this would become a trend. In the DLC, Monty was reduced to being this ruthless, mindless brute with no sympathy for him, just ankle-biting chihuahua. And in Help Wanted 2, Roxy and Chica get more of a spotlight for their characters, while Monty's model asset is just left unused as it sits on top of the Bonnie Bull minigame. He just doesn't get the limelight at all. I will agree with No Real Name here in the sense that I also find it poetic that one of the most dedicated characters to the attention for someone who wants to be in the limelight, the spotlight, the attention. He wants to be him. He wants to be the showrunner, the forerunner. He wants to be that guy. And he just doesn't get any attention from even his own developers. That is messed up. Like, poetically, that is messed up. It seems, though, with the recent releases, though, that may no longer be the case. Recently, Secret of the Mimic has been updated on the Steam page with new screenshots. One of them is of the player looking at 2 frogs, a hippo, and an alligator performing. With that screenshot, with one of the news articles in Security Breach's ending, and the drawing comparisons, fans such as myself speculate that these are the original versions of Happy Frog, Mr. Hippo, and Monty, respectively. Maybe Monty will get more to his character in Secrets of the Mimic, which would be nice since the neglect of Monty's character has been a valid criticism within the community. I mean, I don't even really like Monty all that much, but I completely agree. Actually writing this script has actually made me like Monty more because of the fact that not only was I able to tie up loose ends for myself, because I kind of like just breaking down characters that have little to no backstories or like an open-ended backstory and just filling the blanks in for myself. It's so fun to do as a writer, but I will agree that the lack of actual canon story, it just I can see why it bothers people, and I do wish there was more of Monty here, because while I do like open-endedness for backstories, Monty's is just a whiteboard. Like, there's just nothing. But I guess you could clarify that the unfinished ride where they detail Monty's backstory with how he became one of the core 4 as a backstory and how he has some redeeming qualities, but again, like I mentioned earlier, I think it is obvious that it was a cover-up story. It's just not telling the whole truth there. So in Secrets of the Mimic, I really do hope they add more to his story and maybe add some conflicting information with that fabricated backstory, because genuinely I do kind of like it, just to have oh, this is what happens, but when you dig down, it's that's not what happened at all, dude. Another thing that I feel like that could help us understand Monty's character, and I feel like is kind of the reason why I feel like I'm making this whole thing a little early, is the new Escape from the Pizzaplex book coming out on April 1st. So until then, this is just my telling. This is my understanding of how Monty became the rockstar that he is, and what his character was like before we got to see him in-game. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Was I wrong? Do you think I was on the right track? Will I be proven wrong? Will Escape the Pizzaplex and Secret of the Mimic answer the burning questions that we have, or maybe ask the question that we already have the answer to? Let me know. If you like the video, please leave a like. If you're looking forward to videos like this, I recommend subscribing and hitting the bell to be notified of the next upload. With all this out of the way, let me just say that we are now at the end of the video, and I want to say thank you on the recent support of the last video. Or the last couple of videos, rather. It's so amazing that I'm actually, making this shit again. It feels so nice to be able to pull this off again. Man, And to see these videos getting attention too, because like, again, I don't normally make videos like this. Like, I do like making story videos, but I never just sit down and talk. I kind of want to just write a script and then act it out. But overall, this has been so much nicer, and the fact that they're getting a good amount of attention has been really wholesome for me. But anyways, thank you all so much. If you enjoyed the video, again, leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all some other time. Later, Cytheria.